So hopefully everybody's feeling well. We are live in the flesh. So we're about to go ahead and get this party started. How's everybody feeling? It is Friday. I know I said I would not be on, but man, listen. It's a lot of things going on. Woke up this morning feeling well, you know, another day, another opportunity. So I felt like it was only right if I came on, just reality. So yesterday, let's kind of get into a bit of a breakdown of specifically what we were highlighting yesterday and what my thoughts were. So last night's recording, if you missed it, you should be able to see it in the chat. So that's good. Um, we called this thing pretty much perfectly to the T. I came in, I said, "Hey, we got a gut feeling." All right. So that gut feeling was 100% right. Came in at 12:18 p.m. Let's have a strong feeling once we finish earnings tonight, right? Tomorrow, which we will have a nasty sell off. This is just a prediction, but I have a gut feeling that tells me we're going to see a nasty sell off at some point within the next 5 trading days. It could be tomorrow or it could be as early as next week. Just depends on the trading volume. I think we're setting up to see a massive profit take come off the board within the next 5 sessions. What I would suggest to act upon this, have some cash, be ready to short the SPY in the QQQ. When it's time, you'll get my signal. My recommendation is that you put 30 days, right, worth of time, if not a little bit less. Once we do that, have some bars set up. Other than that, today I'm out of here, all right? And I came in at 1:30. And ladies and gentlemen, I would say it was right on time to call the market top right there. Look at the SPY in the QQQ. Looks like we're seeing a bit of a profit take ahead of earnings. Who said that a few moments ago? Make that money. Then boom, today we wake up. The SPY and the QQQ are both downward. So I want to get into what made me feel that way, specifically what kind of like Meta and Microsoft really saved us. I want to explain that again. Right? Meta and Microsoft really saved us because of their high asset allocation. And it's funny, they could only save us for after hours session. Funny enough, they could not save us for the full day, right? So what do I mean by that? If you look here on the SPY, as soon as the market, pre-market open yesterday, we started to drop, and then the market open dropped even further. So now we're back here to 625. And on the QQQ, we're back here to 557, right? So why was I saying that there's going to be a profit take? Where was I getting that from? What was the reasoning behind me saying to expect a profit take? Well, the main reason that I kept saying, hey, expect a profit take is because one, valuations. Valuations. Everyone put that word in the chat. It was available too, right? I kept saying valuations, right? That was my main thing. I mentioned Moatani, who I got in contact with him yesterday, a little bit back and forth. I'm planning to bring him in hopefully next week, right? Hopefully next week, I'm going to bring him in because he'll be right on time. When he comes in, I'm going to be quiet. I won't say a word until he's ready for me to step in because the information that he can go ahead and provide is going to be far greater than a lot of the information that I can provide specifically on as far as from an institutional standpoint. He's going to give it to you point blank period raw. He's going to give you in a raw nutshell, right? So when I look here, once again, let's go now to the daily time frame. I want everyone to go to the daily time frame on a SPY. I want you to take your tool belt. Where's mine? Right here. I want you to go ahead and grab that tool belt. And I want you to essentially take the most recent low, right? And I want you to stretch that line all the way across. So it's really good because we're still a distance away, right? Stretching that line all the way across. We're still a distance away, right? Which is the good piece. Or are we? This is the part I wanted to discuss, right? Where are we at? Look at this. Now, as of yesterday's close, we still had a good bit of distance. But now here, we're heading now, getting ready to go into August, right? So where Monday will be the 4th, Tuesday will be the 5th, right? So with us being here at this 625, this is actually pretty much a danger zone, right? This is a bit dangerous for the QQQ and a SPY, at least for the SPY. I'll pull up the QQQ here in a second, right? So we can get these variables and attest to this. But this is why I'm a bit nervous, right? Because now, just like that, because we're not staying in an ascension type pattern where the market continues to go up and it stays away from this diagonal trend line, momentum can start to shift downward, right? So I want you to put that on your notes. Momentum can now start to shift downward, right? This is why I want to, once again, I want to stress, right? It is super, super, super duper important, right? When you see this, this is now able to go ahead now see pull, right? 625, right? It now that pivotal and critical level where now if we see this break, I just want to expound upon this a bit further. 621.62, 619.11. So this is where the momentum starts to shift, and you see how fast this thing can turn. Now, this is the setup in a situation you have. I mean, profit take, we'll get to the other tickers in a second. The semiconductor sector is getting wiped right now, pretty bad, right? It's not a good day for semiconductor stocks. We just were talking about SMH last night. And what was the level, guys? What was the level for SMH last night? Yeah. What's going on, David? Hopefully all is well. Yeah, man, we couldn't take that. We not with this activity. What's going on, King? All right. So 625, right, is where we're at. What was the level last night for SMH that we spoke on? Who has the levels? What was the level we spoke on? It's sitting at it right now, 283. Thank you for that, Marvin. 283 for SMH. So we got our bad boy TSM over here. Let me pull up SMH just on this side. So we'll come back to the SPY here in a second. SMH, once again, 283. Look at that level, right? So a lot of that had to do with, of course, AMD. Like I kept it so unbiased, guys. I told people, listen, do we trust AMD after it goes on these runs? This is what you call knowing your tickers. I don't trust AMD, not after it takes this significant run, right? So when you see AMD, we've ran up so far to the upside. AMD is now down here to 169. So it erased pretty much majority of its gains over the past 5 days. So SMH now 283, 279. You know, we could see realistically a lot of the gains from July get wiped on SMH, right? So a retracement back to 272, 265 area could be imminent. Now, what would be the names that need to come down? NVIDIA, which is down about $4 and change. I want everyone to set a couple alerts here on your Yahoo Finance for NVIDIA. Set one for 165 and one for 153. I'm not saying it goes to 153, just please set it. I'll add context here in a second. But set one for 165 and 153 for NVIDIA. The QQQ is now down $7 here this morning. All right. So we have that there. All right. So we talk about momentum, MicroStrategy reported earnings, VST, and also we had a VIX, right? The VIX, which once again, I came in yesterday and said, I got my eyes. Where's the VIX at this morning? It's at 19. So the VIX price came into demand. Listen to me carefully. Price came into demand on the VIX. So now, with the price coming into demand at that $15 level, what was going to happen? It started to reverse. It was pretty obvious that we were going to pull back. It was maybe the day, well, we nailed that one, right? Pretty much we came in and we timed it to the T. The reason why we were able to do that, paying attention to the VIX bouncing off of 15, and it got to 16. And then I didn't like how the SPY didn't break 640. And to be honest, that was our last level. We said the SPY was go to 640. That was the last level we had. Also, what did I warn people about at the beginning of the week? Right? Listen here. Didn't I say, now I'm about to go pull it because these analysts had me flabbergasted this week, right? Probably haven't heard me use that one before, but that's what they did. These analysts had me flabbergasted. So I'm gonna go to Monday, right? So let me go to Monday. And this is something when you get these alerts, it's always good to take screenshots, right? So there's certain things that I take screenshots of always. This was another main reason that I did cut the chat this week, just so I could kind of have enough room and space, right, to be able to operate this week. And just to really expound upon and explain the information, just in a nutshell. So this week was a really, 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 really busy week. It was a lot of information that came out consistently. And so sometimes maybe certain things get lost, or if people don't end up seeing the recording, right? But this was what I said on Monday. This was 7:28, right? And I highlighted the pump boys are active. You're seeing a lot of these analysts, they are pumping. I said, boy, they're looking to take people's money. All of a sudden, these grave claims, once again, these were the same analysts that were downgrading the market when we were at a low. Now, the pump boys, Oppenheimer. Listen, I got a lot of respect for the people over there at Oppenheimer, but they were pumping, right? So listen to this. Restored. Key word, restored. My teacher, Miss Gannon, she used to call my mother in third grade and say, Lawrence is not using his context clues. She tried to embarrass me in front of the whole class. Miss Gannon never, ever will be given that light of day ever again, right? So third grade, Lawrence is not using his context clues. What context did this provide? When it says Oppenheimer restored, what does that mean? That means that restoration, right? Restored. Now it's year-end S&P 500 price target, right? Is you now have a 7,100, 7,100, up from 5,950 in April, thanks to new trade deals with Japan and the EU. Like, bro, where was this at in the beginning? This implies an 11% gain, right, from the July 25th close. The firm also maintained its 2025 forecast of 275, right, reflecting a forward PE of what? Listen to this, 25.8, right? So to me, I just think that this was egregious. Once again, I think that this was egregious. Morgan Stanley, one of the dirtiest players in the game, could reach 7,200 by mid 2026, driven by a rolling recovery in earnings. Well, we actually were able to go ahead and listen to what? We was able to go ahead and listen to this information and see that, listening to earnings, it wasn't all peaches and cream. Now, there were some companies, Meta and Microsoft, that had some great earnings, and it's still early before we go ahead. But next week will be another test. Next week's numbers better be on point. Otherwise, we're going to sell off more. And the SPY will be at 615. Mark my words. If we don't have a abundance of great earnings reports talking about things here, which is right. AI adoption. Also, the Fed has not provided any rate cuts. Once again, the Fed has not provided any rate cuts, right? So what we're highlighting here today is just giving examples, right? Examples. So yes, that's what we trade here. GC, whoever that is, GC, we trade price action. Correct. That's what we are very effective at doing. So GC, that's exactly what we trade. We trade price action 100%, right? EPS, these things, but all of these factors do play an important piece and part. You can look at charts all day and not know what the hell news is coming out, and you don't understand. Charts tell one part of the story, but you need to understand this part just as much, right? So despite risks like high rates and high tariffs, he expects pullbacks to be brief and recommends buying dips. Now, I would say that this end is proper. Once again, we're expecting same thing. We expected a pullback. And we expect these pullbacks to be long. by no means necessary. We do recommend as stocks hit certain levels where you should buy. That sheet will be developed hopefully by Sunday or Monday, giving you over 40 to 50 tickers of where the discounts lie and why. So this is the piece and the point that I want to explain. When I started to see them get active, the pump boys, as I call them, that's where another red flag pretty much signed up in my head and said, you know what? The pump boys got active. It was one of those ones where, listen, you know, they're coming out with these grave claims, right? And this is, like I said, this is super, super, super duper important. Super important for us to understand. The pump boys were getting active. Now, it's my job here to add context and clarity as to what they are saying. This was a lot of pumping, and one of the things that usually happens after this pumping is dumping. It's a reality. What happens when they start with all these grave claims and the market is going to come down, right? Good morning, Tiffany, right? All of a sudden, the market rallies up. If you think back to April, I mean, March and April, they were cutting price targets. IMF was slashing forecasts. They were slashing forecasts all over the place. So once again, if you are not making moves, you got to make moves. So do we expect, once again, the question that's going to be asked, how long, right? Because that's always the question. I view this more as a profit take more than us just seeing the market come down to, pull back 20, 25% again. This is more of a profit take. There are names that have been running and there are names that need to be dealt with. What tickers are going to decline first? A lot of the tickers that may have, one, led us to these highs, two, the names with high PE multiple businesses. Those are going to be your names that ultimately get cooked first, right? So my thought process, here's one specific move that I'm looking at today, right? And I think Apple will come down and retrace, right? It's at 211 here in the pre-market, but Apple breaks this 207, it's going to pull back to 204 and 199. So this is now profit taking time. I want to forecast, even Roblox came back down 133. We've talked about extensively. There's no questions now about healthcare and what our thoughts are. There's no questions at all because we covered that sector beautifully last night. So if you missed last night's class, check it out. Coinbase is going to come down probably a bit further. 275, I'm going to tell you here right now, 275 is the price you want to buy for Coinbase. Lululemon Athletica, we understand is in the drop zone. It's below, right? Lululemon Athletica is below 200. We think Lulu goes to 140, 160 realistically now. 140 to 160. So some cash secure puts. If you got the cash, that'll be $14,000 to $16,000 in free cash. You could sell a Lulu cash secured put. We think that's a good option to employ, right? Good option to employ to be able to pick up some shares and lock in. Amazon's down 18. There's one ticker because we have YouTube. We can't talk about it. But mentees, you guys know exactly what ticker you should be buying. It's a rotational sector ticker, and you guys know exactly what it is. So you need to make sure you are buying, right? You need to make sure you are buying. So yeah, this is the piece. We've already, and this is what you call being early to the party, right? Everything that we discussed, what has been my one main motto is raise cash. Raise cash. So yeah, I might have said it early, but that's the piece. You don't want to be caught and then the market starts dropping and you didn't raise cash because you can never truly time. Well, I did yesterday. I won't say that was luck. That was just precision. I'm just like that, right? Because if you take a look, I called it. Point plain as day, gut feeling, setup was there. I ignored the news on Microsoft and Meta that could have clouded the judgment and said, oh, Amazon will just come back up. These names, even with Apple's little thing after hours, not much happened with Apple, right? The highest revenue growth since 2021 is what was reported. But if you take a look at the leverage ETFs, majority of the leverage ETFs have now peaked out, right? You got leverage ETFs already down 7-10% here this morning. So the leverage products are getting cooked. So if I'm saying, hey, raise cash on something leveraged, there's a reason as to why I'm saying raise cash on as to that. My goal is not to just be on here rambling for no reason. I wouldn't be teaching these classes at the volume that I'm teaching just because just cause. No, because there's value to be added. So Lululemon, once again, price 140, right? For you to be able to get this price, 140, it's a fair price. Once again, a fair price. That's a pretty fair price. Is now for people, once again, to be able to get this number in this name, right? So to me, it's been running, over the past few years. It's had a nasty pullback. And, these are where the levels lie, right? This is where the chart tells us where now price is getting ready to go. So this is why I say have your cash, especially for your high growth businesses. We covered Coinbase 275. Mark that off on your charts, 275. Mark that off and put an alert on Yahoo Finance to go grab that name at 275, right? Super, super duper important that people pay attention to make sure they are getting these notes. So there's no questions. LE, what's the question? What's the question? What's the question? Let me pull up Goldman Sachs because I want to get into our banking sector, right? Our banking sector is very important. So with our banking sector, to me, a lot of people have had questions about GS. I don't know if you see 460, 470 again. I don't know if those levels come again, What I will say is if you can set an alert for 655, and then I want you as well to set an alert on GS for 615. Now, underneath 700, you can set an alert. Underneath 700 will be a good short opportunity on Goldman Sachs. So underneath 700 would make a lot of sense if you were thinking about shorting that specific ticker, because it would be able to line up there perfectly, set you up at the right pace to be able to capitalize. So GS, once again, set an alert for $700, right? And here's the part when I want to explain this, right? Strike expiration date, all of that stuff. Because we're getting to the part in the program where people should, by now, have an idea over, okay, what options are we actually taking, right? Because, no one ever said to trade a weekly option. People do it, but that's their prerogative. They chose to do that. No one ever said that's what you should do, right? So when it comes to that, it's like we should always know that we're at least putting 60 to 90 days on our options, realistically, right? At least 60 to 90 days, especially when we're talking about swing trading, holding something overnight, right, through the night. I just think that's just good rule of thumb. That just helps you be able to understand what are my target tickers, right? HIMS, Palantir, OKLO. What are the same names that ran up are going to be the same names we target down. ARC ETF, right? Those are names that you should not hesitate, given the opportunity, to go short and take some. The thing about puts is a lot of times the market drops faster than it goes up. So the moves to the downside happen a lot faster. So you got to be on your P's and your Q's. Once again, super, super, super duper important. You got to be on your P's and your Q's here now. So when you look at Robinhood, once again, same thing. Robinhood, a nice business, but it 4x'd, right? Almost basically 4x right here in a matter of 3 months. So market caps 4xing, 3xing, even 2xing super fast have never just kept running. There's always been some form of a profit take, at least in the interim. So we reached a level where the market got to extreme greed temporarily, and now we're back down to greed. The reason why the VIX is important is because if the VIX breaks 20, you can set an alert. Here's the alerts I want you to set: 20, it's right there, 22, and 25. Take this note down. If the VIX breaks through 25, that's where the sell-off will deepen. Right now, the all-time high on the QQQ, Is right here. Let's talk corrections. Not to say when it's happening, but just so you had the numbers, right? The all-time high of the QQQ is now what? Calculator. Well, your calculator's out. 574. Times that by 10%, and that's $57. So 574 minus 57 is 517. So when people ask about a correction on the QQQ, where would that correction be at? The correction would be at 517. 517. So you're still $40 away from there, about $42, right? So the correction talk can't really be had until we get to like 530, 535. It's like as far as potential, because at that point, you're one bad day away. So you're looking at erasing pretty much the majority of the gains going back to early June, right? So that would be erasing 2 months worth of gains. Once again, that could happen. It just takes a catalyst. What would the names be, that would likely to be moved? So you can definitely count that NVIDIA and AVGO have to come down. Of course, Microsoft as well, too. Those three are in the top five. Apple and Amazon. Well, Amazon already pulled back today, which is one of the main reasons we see the QQQ has pulled down. But if you look during this next cycle, right, unfortunately, Broadcom is probably going to pass Amazon as far as asset allocation in the QQQ. Now, depending on Broadcom's continued performance and Apple's lack of performance, will decide if Broadcom can catch Apple. This is the risk part, right? Is if now Broadcom goes here, you now have the three names up here, all, pretty much all in on AI. What do I mean by that? If Broadcom, Microsoft, and NVIDIA become the top three names, all of these businesses are predicated a lot on AI. So however AI goes will be how these go. Now, I'm not saying that to be a bad thing. I'm just highlighting this is what it is. So many times people have the conversation about the good and don't consider the bad. That's where I think people run into trouble. They have a biased opinion, which is just natural. We're human, but you don't think about both sides of the coin. It's good when the market is running upward, but you don't consider what that means when the market is downward, right? So to me, NVIDIA, it's been a hell of bona fide runner. We got a lot of love, but listen, this is not a business about what your feelings are. If NVIDIA starts to pull back, it just eclipsed over 10% holding allocation. There's an argument that could be made to say this ETF is based too much on NVIDIA. Now, Apple has dropped because its performance has dropped, right? Not necessarily its stock price, but its performance. NVIDIA and Microsoft have been outperforming. And this is why I say if Broadcom continues, like there's no way that the Broadcom goes to like 350, it doesn't pass Apple as far as holding allocation. They might not pass them as far as market cap. They are going to pass Amazon. Now, Meta platforms can put themselves and continue to push themselves higher, but they're going to need more of a performance. At this point, I would say it's unlikely that Meta, I do think Meta is going to be 1,000 unless they split before, right? But this is the piece that I want to say, right? We're on Zoom right now. Someone asking, do you think we continue to see sell-offs on SPY and QQQ? We're on Zoom right now talking about it. We're on Zoom right now talking about it, right? Zoom right now. So this is the piece why I prefaced everything. This is why. Because when the market comes down and you are unprepared, those will be the questions, right? So let's go to this chart. These are the levels. Pay attention. Because 557, 25, 552, 79, 551, 05. These are the levels to pay attention to. Once again, after that, there's a gap down to 544. So the thought process is once again, we still have earnings next week, which it's hard for me to imagine. I think the best that we got was Microsoft and Meta until at least NVIDIA comes about. AMD, I said it yesterday. I don't trust AMD after it runs and then it has to report earnings. I made the analogy. We got a nice date, some flowers, two steaks. all that good stuff set up at 4 p.m. next Tuesday, 4 a.m. Bizzle. But listen, I'm telling you now, I don't believe that they are going to actually be able to have any type of surprise. Why? The stock has already ran significantly before earnings. This is another thing that I've stated. When stocks significantly run before earnings, right? You got to understand, when stocks run significantly before earnings, they always leave room for a pullback. Why? Because they've already ran 20%. They've already ran 50%, right? And so to me, you're looking at, now it comes down to policy, right? Policy is going to play an important role. What DT does is definitely going to factor in. We don't have to worry about the Fed till September, but now people are going to continue to price the Fed. They're going to lean on the fact that two individuals voted to cut at that meeting. DT will use that marketing campaign, all of that good stuff. So he is going to leverage that case in point. Now we have the question about valuations. Over the past 3 months, you have literally seen, once again, over the past 3 months, there's been a lot of exaggerated moves. And the NASDAQ is a bit frothy and could be over allocating to the SMA, to the semiconductor ETFs, to the semiconductor stocks and the semiconductor ETF SMH, I think is a bit too high. At this current point in time, there has been a lot of froth in the market. Coinbase is down to 40 piece, big boy numbers. Healthcare, we expect still some continued downside, but we see the opportunity that lies. I told people to make sure that they set this ARC ETF. Like, we don't have no bias when it comes to this. I've been screaming for the past few sessions, have I not? ARC is at a high. We don't see it breaking through 78 cleanly. So get ready. These are the levels to watch. Watch 68.45, 66.82, 64.70, 63.14, right? These are the key points that I want to, once again, stress. Shopify is back down to 120, right? So your names that have been running, they're starting to pull back a bit, right? These names that have been running are starting to pull back. So you see that here now, right? Does all this information make sense to people? Does all this information make sense? All right. Because I want to make sure it did. When it comes to questions, you got to have levels. So that, like, this is the point I could tell who has their chart set up and who doesn't. We got a whole platform here, whole platform with technicals. Please, everyone, get your technical game on. We got a whole platform with technicals, trading view set up. Before you put any of your money on any puts, please have levels. Do not trade and do not have no levels set on your chart. Please and thank you. If you trade in puts and with no levels, man, that's all I'm going to say. This is why I say have your technical prowess geared up, right? Have your technical prowess geared up. Super, super, super duper important. Because when you have your technical levels, this is what you have. A lot of people is waiting too long sometimes. When you could have alerts, you could use your tools and your resources. We have these levels here, plain as day, right? Plain as day, we have these levels. So everyone's waiting for this and waiting for that, when all of it is right in front of them. Right in front of them. So the question about continuation, if we break 555.725, you drop to 55279. Right? So that's exactly what you're going to see happen. So SPY and QQQ setups. Once again, here we go. These are your levels. So you can pay attention or not. SPY 621. 621.62, 619.11 goes to 615. By the time, if we break this diagonal trend line, we are going to 615 on the SPY. Once again, this isn't today. We're just highlighting where price is looking to go. The VST is coming down. It's about $8. Let's pull up TSLA Tesla. 303 will be a pivot point, right? So 303, we got to get below this pivot point level. If you notice here today, price hit this 303. We got to close below this 303 and push below 299. If price does not, hear me carefully. If you got it, you got to break below this 299. Like that's very important. 299 has to get broken. So if you're trying to, if the market needs to see, is trying to really see a pullback, it has to break that level. To me, it's likely just how much we've dropped. Some people are going to say, yo, at open, think about it. If the SPY drops $6, $7 at open, you don't think you're going to see a retrace back first? What is that retrace really highlighted as? Right? A lower high. If we are starting to make lower lows and lower highs, price will hit a level, bounce back, rally, and reject, and then break below. So those are lower lows and lower highs, higher highs, and higher lows. So that is covered here in the charting and technical analysis book. Pretty plain. This is the makeup of a chart. Nothing moves in a straight line. When you're going upward, you make higher highs and higher lows. When you're going downward, you make a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. So in the event, you could see a rally to start off the session today, right? A nice rally to go ahead and start off the session, right? Lower lows, lower highs, higher highs and higher lows, right? Lower lows and lower highs, higher highs and higher lows. Once again, this is how you're able to go ahead and dissect. So questions. What's the makeup of a chart? Lower lows, lower highs, higher highs, higher lows. So what does that mean? If the market's down $6, $7 overnight, we're likely to do what before we end up going higher? We're likely to reverse. That's just the reality, right? Likely to reverse, right? Likely to reverse. All right. Likely to reverse. Any other questions, great people? Questions. This is your time to get questions in. Yep. PG as in Procter and Gamble. What are you trying to? When I said rally, no, exactly what it means. Rally. Price rallies upward, then goes downward. That's a lower high. Yep. That's a lower high. So when price rallies upward, that's right here. What does this mean? Boom. Base to a rally to a drop. Base, rally, drop. Base, rally, drop. So Coinbase, we got you. Let's pull up Coinbase again. Once again, 275 is the level I think is a fair price to get it at. Some people might be saying, well, L, that's far away. Trust me, these things fall faster than what you know. All right. So if you're looking here, just follow. I want us to take out this. If we can, we're right here at 335. We could easily drop to 310 from here. Below there, we're getting to now back to that 275 area. So I just want to stress that for everyone here. Please pay attention. All right. Please pay attention. 275. This is where I'm getting this level from. So a break below 294 leads us to 275. Yep. 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 Questions. Ask your questions. This is very important. Ask your questions. Get them in now. Please get them in now. While we're on a Zoom, get your questions in. Right? Yeah. Yeah. So get them in now. You take profit at open. And if you knew that Apple was coming up on earnings and you weren't comfortable to play the risk, that's another thing as well, too. So these are all things we go over, guys. Right? These are all things we go over. Down 25%. What's your risk per? We got trading rules for? What we got trading rules for? I'm about to pull this up. What's your trade plan? What do you have trading? What's your stop loss? Entries, exits, chart levels, averaging down, stop losses. What's your stop loss? What's your stop loss? July jobs report is getting ready to come out here. What is your stop loss? right? What is your stop losses? Your stop loss percentages. That's important. You got to design those for yourself. Everyone has different, I give a recommendation, but everyone has different risk tolerances. Everyone has a different risk tolerance. So if you want to use my custom one, I would suggest to do that. If you've developed your own, I would say to stick with those. You want to stick with those. So we got trading rules in here, risk management. Got this whole risk management tab in here for nothing, I guess. 2 to 7% day trades, 10 to 15% short-term swings, less than 5 days holding, 20 to 25% midterm swings, 2 to 6 month expos, 30 to 35% leaps. This is your custom thing. These are things that we've went over. This is why I'm saying, like, the whole wait around until somebody 24/7 tells you something to do, that doesn't work here. The goal is to get the information, use this information for your benefit. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Cash secure put. If you're down, would you advise selling to raise cash, rotate? So if it hits your stop losses, like if you go, you get what I'm saying? If it hits your stop losses, that's what I would suggest. Right? I also been saying raise cash. This isn't to be mean to anybody, but I've been saying raise cash for 3 weeks before the market made this last move. And this is why, because you truly never know when the pullback is going to happen. Now the questions are we going to puts, going to that? This is why the game plan was here in the first place, guys, because you had to have been raising cash over the past few weeks. I've been saying it, leverage ETFs, options as they're hitting their targets, move out the way. Make these significant moves to protect yourself. So now when the market does come down, because we can't time it perfectly, but now can you stomach that 1 to 2 to maybe even 3% NASDAQ red day? We're going to find out today who can or who can't. That's what we're about to find out. And this is why I preach so much. I don't care if I'm early on the take profit. This is why I'm saying it, because I need people to understand, like, this is the reason why I'm stressing it so much, is because when you don't follow and you're idly sitting, you will get your butt clapped. That's just the reality. People get clapped not paying attention. Oh, but I had this trade in, but I ain't having a Yahoo Finance alert. Really? You're in a trade without an alert. It's crazy. How the hell you in a trade without an alert? How you watching a SPY and a QQQ with no alerts? You got to be watching QQQ and SPY with alerts. It's impossible to watch all of these things at one time. I don't care how many screens you got up. You need to have alerts. Boom, you got buzzed. Oh, snap. The SPY hit 635. Boom, you got buzzed. Oh, snap. Tesla hit 310. You got buzzed. There's multitude of times when we're on Zooms, tickers hit levels, and I go to them. Not because I was watching them, but because I had an alert set on that bad boy. So the same thing. What's the easiest stocks to short? It's the high growth names. I've only said it for the past 2 months. I've only said that the same names we bought calls on or were holding will be the same names that we could easily short to the downside. A SoFi Technologies, a Coinbase, right? A Palo Alto Network. You see it dropping, right? We talk about the moves that they're making, right? They're making an investment. Tesla. We always talk about the names that, move high flyer. We will not hesitate to short. AMD, plain as day, said, yo, AMD here right now, as price gets moved up here to the upside, literally why we would go short. Once again, this is the reality, right? This is the reality, right? This is the reality, right? And I think this is the piece that you start to see. It's all fun when the market is going up. It's not so fun when the market starts to come down. And unless you're prepared, it could still be fun. And this is the preparation that you have. So you shouldn't get into a trade without a target. When people were asking about Caterpillar, the target was clearly 440. It hit that yesterday. Right now, if you wanted to take profit, you could take profit beforehand. Tesla, what's the target? First target is 303. What's the second target? 299. After that, 289 to 291. You should have these targets memorized off the back of your hand, Because for one, you shouldn't be in too many positions anyway to where you don't even remember the target, right? You don't even remember the target. Like those are the key pieces that once again, to stress. AVGO hit 300, move out the way. What was my focus point? Review earnings reports, monitor the market, double down on the education. I said this earlier. Now is a great time to go back, catch up on old classes, rewatch, and review previous lessons, right? Prepare for the Federal Reserve, right? And so now this is where we're at, right? We had targets being hit in one day. Everything that happened here. IBM had a nice little recovery, boom, moved out the way. SMCI did the gap fill. Caterpillar did it. All of these stocks hit these levels. These are scouted, boom. Take profits at the time of targets. Do not wait for perfection. At all-time highs, we focus on discipline, execution, and capital preservation. So if everything's hitting our targets, HIMS, OKLO, all these different things, these are the targets. These are the targets we've been talking about. Once again, these are the targets here, right? These are the targets that ended up coming to fruition. We had a clean sweep. What are we waiting on? Clean sweep right there. These are our targets. So boom, this is another example. People that, target was clearly 1234. Came in and said, yo, you got to close out Netflix. Came in. You got to set your alerts. This is the point. Netflix came in. Netflix ASAP. If there's one tab in here, you can ignore all the other stuff. This is the first tab. You come in here, boom, and hit this. This is the tab. You can come in here, boom, hit this. The second tab, trade setups and technicals, right? Boom. We said high chance we reverse over the next 2 to 4 weeks. We got it within a day. Boom. So it happened within a day. We planned for 2 to 4 weeks. That's just like, yo, you go out and say, hey, we're going to have a 10-play drive, right? You go out, say you're going to have a 10-play drive. Boom. I hit Devontae Smith down the sideline, 80-yard touchdown, first play. We're done. Close this thing up, kick the extra point. Let's go sit to the bench. Jay Hurts threw the ball. Devontae Smith, speedster, catches the ball, touchdown. Boom. Extra point, go hit the bench. Now let's go ahead and take a look and listen. We're going to go review the tape. That's the same thing. Same thing. We might have a plan, but once again, it's about adjustments. If we see something and we took advantage of the defense, what we still on the field for? We're not. We're going to sit on the sidelines to go work and go review our tape. Move out the way. That's the way. But you got to be accountable. You got to set your alerts dollars before your targets, not just at the target, but dollars before. You should have a target dollars before, right? And it's just what it is, right? It's just what it is. As RJ said, just as long as you don't throw it on my Cowboys. Listen, your Cowboys about to get brutalized, my brother. And I'm not even a Philadelphia fan, but shout out to all the Philly fans in the house. We have a really great demographic of Philadelphia Eagle fans and people from Philly here in the community. So shout out to Fly Eagles Fly group. Appreciate y'all. You know what I'm saying? So this is what it comes down to. Chargers. Oh man. We'll talk football. We'll have some time to talk football, but I'm gonna say some prayers for Mills with that guy, Mr. Herbert, because man, he's fragile in that pocket. Fragile. But nonetheless, guys, it's knowing your players, knowing the game. Like this is what you call, once again, precision and execution. So now that we're here, there's going to be a ton of questions, right? A ton of questions. This is your time to reflect, get some questions in because it's 7:45. We woke up, boom, I hopped on Zoom. I wasn't supposed to be on Zoom, but I'm here, right? Commanders, shout out to the Commanders, Jaden Daniels and company. Shout out to the boys. Yep. So definitely go ahead and make sure you get your questions answered. Get your questions answered. I need more confused British people. Well, it's no problem. We coming over there to England. NFL comes to England. Roger Goodell got it set up. You can go catch a game at Wembley Stadium, a few games. I think the Jaguars are coming over there. You got a few games at Wembley Stadium for all my UK members. Got a few games at Wembley coming. And maybe a team. Who knows? From what I'm hearing. Falcons, don't talk to me about no Falcons. And yes, I live in Atlanta, but I'm not a Falcons fan. Don't get it twisted. I'm not a Falcons fan. Please don't talk to me about the Falcons. Yeah. You on vacation and still here. That's what it's about. Because guess what? This is what something you can do on vacation. Yep. This is something you can do on vacation. 100%. Yep. Get your questions. So yeah, those are my thoughts. XYZ looks like it broke down below 77. I see that here this morning on my screen over here. So it dropped. But yeah, like I don't think this is a panic mode, but this is just a reality check. These things, when they happen and these profit takes happen, it sets people back into reality. So do I think this is the worst thing in the world? No. But I think it just lets people know going into specifically next week, if we do not have blowout reports, the market will come down consistently a bit more. So once again, blowout reports, right? Pay attention. Blowout reports. We got to see blowout reports. So those are my thoughts. Those are my thoughts. Questions, 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 questions. Get your questions in. Time to ask questions. We got 7:45. We came on a bit early today. I had no plans of coming on. So really I woke up and seeing, the damage, a little bit of damage that was done because it wasn't really much. Right. So this is my thoughts. My thoughts. 3, 2, 1. So let me go ahead and if we have no questions, let me check real quick. PG. Yeah. What used to know best price buy? So you use valuations. Yep. Yep. Really, I'm in the chat. Come on. What do you mean, Justin? I'm getting your question right now. What used to know in the best price level? So yeah, we got you. Buy the stock price, or it's just a valuation. So I don't know if you haven't been in class because we done that numerous of times. You know what I mean? And you can send me a DM, Just Dre. This is the piece that I'm asking about because a question like that is not just a simple answer, right? We use best price to be able to what? Fundamentals and technicals. We'll get PG here in a second, right? Fundamentals and technicals. That's what we use to be able to make sure that we understand things, right? So when I'm combining a fundamentally sound price with a technical level on a chart, that's how we get best prices. Once again, some of these prices always hit, some of them always do not, right? It just depends. NVO, we expect $30 to be the best price that we're going to get. Maybe it drops lower, but that's what we look at based upon price evaluation and identifying key levels on a chart. That's the reason how we do it. So, yep, fundamentals and technicals. That's how we combine to find our great prices. We look at EPSs, right? We look at the trailing 12 months EPS. We combine that. So we've done that. If you go back to last night's class right here in the Discord, we had that set up for you. I already posted that. This is something that we did in depth. Now, when I come with the best prices, you are going to see, and we'll go over that sheet and we'll talk about a few of those tickers as well. But these are this July finale last night, very in-depth class. So when you review the information, it's all right in front of your eyes. All right in front of your eyes. We got you. PG hit my 150 target, but it looks like it might go. PG is not something that I suggest for people to really, trade like that. It's not really a trader's stock per se, right? As the market started to go up, you could tell that PG started to go down. Why? Because the risk was increasing. People wanted to take more risk. If people are willing to take more risk, where do they usually take their money out of? Right? They usually take their money out of high growth stocks, right? And so I definitely want to stress this, right? I definitely want to stress this. Once again, super, super, super duper important. Yep. Super important here. So now when I look at, here, this $150, prices came down. So if you listen to this closely, 142, I agree. 142, 141 is possible only if the market continues to go upward, right? And risk continues to be added. In my opinion, I think if the market drops, people will go and hide in Procter and Gamble. Not the only ticker, but people like to hide in Hershey's and in Procter and Gamble. Just giving you two examples. So those are my thoughts. Now, SOXL, that's a question. I would not touch SOXL until it got back below $15. Again, this is a major question that I've been getting, so let me cover it. I've already told people numerous times to sell SOXL, so there's nothing left for me to say. Whoever wants to keep it, that's on them. But, I'm not really beating a dead horse with because I'm saying the same things. Some people are hearing, other people are not, right? Leverage ETFs, particularly 3X, right? Well, all that happened here with Soxo is you're breaking down outside of this rising wedge pattern. This is a bearish reversal pattern, right? Bearish reversal pattern. In your opinion, what's the best price point to buy crowd for a long-term hold? Great question here, and I'll get it for you in a second. Great question. That's a scholarly question right there, all right? So if you're looking at SOXL, you're going to break down $16, $10, right? So I would not touch this until maybe 15, 16. But really, I would just say, yeah, you're saying you're looking for an entry area. I see you're asking, I'm just looking for entry. Listen, I'm going to tell you the variables here. You don't want to buy this high. That's what I'm trying to explain. This is not something that you just trade like a regular stock. You buy this at extreme lows. So when people actually are listening to the risk to reward, listen to what I'm saying. No one talked about SOXL. I guarantee next time they will, though, because this is now 2 times in a row. I was the only one talking about Soxo. TQQQ, there was only one other individual talking about TQQQ, and that was Mark Monroe. Other than that, no one else discussed it as much as me. I discussed Soxo. I discussed TQQQ. That's it. So when it comes to Soxo, I need you to understand, and I appreciate that. You only don't get drunk with these tickers, right? Don't keep coming back for more with names that are in leveraged places when the market is elevated. I would only really buy this under $10. Now, if it never goes there, and let's say it goes to 15 and then rallies, that's fine with me because I would rather not put on that type of risk and risk it dropping against me and going to 7 and you're caught holding the bag, waiting for the pull back to the upside. Leverage ETFs, do not buy them. Now, they will be on the list as far as numbers, but I want to stress to people here now, pay attention very, very, very closely. This is why I said raise cash. Kano is down like about 40% already. Kano, AMDL, $10 to $12 was the offload area. Look at where AMDL is at. We talked about getting it at 6, 7, as well as 5, and then we loaded again at 3 to bring our average down. A lot of people's AMDL average was in between $4 to $5. AMDL has given them 100x, right? Excuse me, 100% return, not 100x, 100% return. These are the things when things happen fast in the market, and I'm saying raise cash, even if it's a bit early, it is okay. I want to protect you guys. That's my goal, is protect you guys. Protect you guys from these investments, and knowing the timing of when you get into these type of investments is very, very, very important. The timing of getting into these investments is very, 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 very important. So I want to continue to stress to people, once again, the timing piece. When it comes down to it, you have to be able to time at the right, you got to time at the right way. So in order to do that, you must pay attention and you must review your valuations. Valuations matter. They can get stretched in certain times, but valuations always come back into focus when the run, once again, when the run starts to feel stretched up. So, yep. I wouldn't necessarily say stress Conal, CONL. That is Conal, CONL is the Coinbase leverage ETF. So that's what it comes down to, CONL. That's the Coinbase ETF, right? CONL. Here's what it is. Like I said before, I told people to leave these things alone. They want to get papped up. That's on them. Leave these things alone. DT, not Donald Trump, but DT, right? Double top. Simple as that. Some people are saying they're looking for DT to do some stuff. I mean, if he does some things, he does some things. I'm not banking on it, but if he does some things, we have a game plan. I don't wish him to do anything stupid, but if he does, we have a game plan. And when the next time that price drops, we'll see. QCOM was down $12 yesterday. You guys know how I feel about QCOM, 120 to 130. So it's about 8 a.m. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing wrapped up today. We will be busy. I'm done. I'm about to go speak at an event for Ashley M. Fox today. So shout out to Amplify, Ashley M. Fox, and also Mr. Robert Boyd. They created the Amplify platform. It's a very great platform. So I'm not sure if anybody's here for that. I know sometimes I have taught in there a few times over the past 2 years. So we're about to go get busy. I'll see probably around like maybe 3:30 that if I can prop an IG live up. Other than that, this will be it. So make sure you guys do follow Ashley M. Fox. Miss Jordan, that's how she found me. Miss Jordan, and she's in here. I'm going to give my flowers to Miss Jordan. She's on the background. She's quiet. She's on all these classes. And she's been in this community for a year, right? Well, excuse me, for over a year. But this is the piece. Miss Jordan is executing. But you know what? The first time I ever met Miss Jordan, it was at Ashley Fox event. I was brought in there. They wanted me. First off, I was speaking to the community. I've taught private classes for a lot of people's communities, right? Ashley Fox brought me in there. I did like an hour and a half masterclass, gave a lot of information. Now, Miss Jordan was one of the first people that came up to me at the event. It was her and another lady, and they came up and she was like, hey, I just want to introduce myself. Miss Jordan was a straight shooter. She said, Lawrence, I got to learn this. I knew exactly where she was from. I could tell by her accent. And she came in and she said, you know what, Lawrence, I got to execute. How can I work with you? She said, Lawrence, I'm ready. She said, I'm trying to retire in December of 2024. She said, I got goals. I said, all right, well, boom. I said, you can come in, you can learn. And boom, she signed up. Boom, we immediately got to work. That was over a year ago now, a little bit over a year ago at that event, because that event was like at the end of June. We're here at top of August. So she's been in the community about 13 months. This is the piece that I want to say. Like, when you really execute upon the information and you take time and you don't try to just flip things around, you get what I'm saying? Miss Jordan came in, she straight shot. So this is the power of community and going into other communities and teaching and leverage and being able to teach at a high level. That when I go other places, people take notes. So listen, you guys have me every single week. The questions, I'm telling you, when I go today, there's not going to be as many questions. People are going to be taking notes. So listen, your job, take notes, review this information, execute upon it, because I'm giving you a boatload of not just information, but a boatload of things to actually take and execute. Right here, I'm in Ashley's community. Exactly my point. This sister is a powerful sister. Just like when I discussed, right, Kathy Woods and the disrespect and how I felt about that, this is how I feel about Ashley, a strong Black woman who is powerful. She's changing a lot of lives. And her platform is absolutely magnificent. And so, once again, I'm going there to speak today at 3:30. I will probably pop up an IG live, right? So, of my address. So be looking at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. Come back to my IG live. Go ahead and hit that bell and make sure the notifications are on. Other than that, I appreciate y'all for you guys' time. And we're going to go ahead and sign up. So I'll try to get an IG live set up. Yep. But NVO, best price is 30. Good price is 37. All right, my great people. Yeah, I got you on crowd. I got you on that. Let me get you that. So CrowdStrike, this is another thing. It's CrowdStrike, CRWD. Now I would say with crowd, you can't always account for major pullbacks, but let's say it does happen. I would say 370 to 345 would be the sweet spot for crowd. It's likely that crowd may not ever go back below 300 again, right? So 345 to 375 would be a good price. Best price I'll say would be 300. So that would be a $150 drop. That would mean the market cap can drop by 35%. Those are my thoughts. And anything like 300 would be the best price. That's my thoughts. So yeah, you want to accumulate? That's my thoughts. But yeah, I would definitely CrowdStrike can have 30 to 40 point drops. So yeah, those are my thoughts CrowdStrike wise. Yep. Uber. So we have a Uber analysis in the chat. All you have to do is come here and you just type in Uber. So guys, like we went over Uber numerous of times. I'm going to do it one last time. Right? I don't want to talk about Uber at all anymore, about prices. Best price that you're going to get is $50. Best price to pay for Uber is $50. $50. All you have to do is go to that Discord and type in Uber. We've talked about it so many times, guys, for months and months and months. So Uber, that's your best price. Fair price, I would say, this is still a fair price if we're going off the valuation. Best price would be 50 in case a disaster happened. Disasters come in, right? So I would say a price to look to get filled, let's say the market comes down, I would say $73 to $77. I would set alerts for $73 and $77 on Uber. Yep, $73 and $77. Other than that, I'm done. We're going to just close this thing out here. So I appreciate y'all.